from the Holy Gospel according to Mark.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Jesus and his disciples came to Bethsaida, and some people brought to him a blind man whom they begged him to touch. He took the blind man by the hand and led him outside the village. Then, putting spittle on his eyes and laying his hands on him, he asked, "Can you see anything?" The man, who was beginning to see, replied, "I can see people. They look like trees to me, but they are walking about." Then he laid his hands on the man's eyes again, and he saw clearly. He was cured, and he could see everything plainly and distinctly. And Jesus sent him home, saying, "Do not even go into the village." This is the gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Please be seated for a brief moment. I found a very telling, very interesting and challenging quote. In the 1930s, Evelyn Underhill, famous writer and thinker of the time, reminded the former Archbishop of Canterbury of something about faith. In the 1930s, the age was a bit similar to ours, same problems. They were struggling with decline, people were giving up religion, and not only the working class, but it was a hallmark of the whole society. So Evelyn Underhill said to the Archbishop in a letter, penned in 1930, "The most interesting thing about religion is God, and people are hungry for God." The most interesting thing about religion is God, and people are hungry for God. Today, when our churches are facing the challenge of mission and to top up the numbers, we heard of the frightening statistics in the Church of England, but it applies to the whole Christian church in this country. And we asked, what should be our reaction? What is our strategy? Obviously, we have to think about how to be present, how to serve the community. That's why when an opportunity occurs, we try to contribute to the community. Like the new initiative, the residents of Grahame Park represent the voice and needs of the community. It's not financed by any of the developers. It's a purely local initiative. Every month when they have their meeting, I offered them that they can use our hall and our own people can bring their own issues. A few members of our community attended it and we found it very useful. But back to the quote. The most interesting thing about religion is God. This is our main force for mission, the Christian witness. If we speak about God, if God is a timing issue in our life, when people can really share their experience of God through prayer, through charity, through a miracle of God, through God's daily support present in our life, that's our most unique feature, speaking about God. And this is the primary task for the priest, but it is also the primary task for all Christians to speak about God, to have an experience of God, to speak about God. So, in today's meditation, I just would like to leave us with this puzzling question, that what prompts us to speak about God? What do we have to do that God would be present in our life as a daily topic when we meet Him? In what forms can He meet? And in a church, just imagine that someone comes to church and that person hears about God in a passionate way from the priest, or if the person comes, let's say, a few times, let's say for a month, because you cannot judge what is present in a community by one encounter, but if he picks up that people, members of the congregation, are passionate about God, that it really makes a change in their lives, and they work hard on it to change their personality towards the better, this is important. And just think of the fact that if we go to a church, or when someone comes to a church, do we speak about eternal life? Do we speak about heaven, not mentioning hell, though our main motivation shouldn't be sin and guilt and heaven, but do we speak in a permanent way about heaven, about the beauty of afterlife, about the beauty of spiritual life? And I think our churches, including us, are a bit silent about it, or a bit shy about it. So we have to reignite this passion in us, because God is the most interesting thing about religion, not the methods, not the charitable services which we can offer, and often we are competing with the local services and doubling those services, but our unique feature, speaking about God. And I just would like to share yesterday's meditation. As I mentioned, there are 2 days on the week, Tuesday and Thursday, when in the evening I'm alone to say the Mass and the prayers. And it's not a good feeling. You have to get used to it, because it's against the nature of celebrating the Eucharist, and you are all by yourself. But think of the person who is remembered only by us, whose name is on the list, whose anniversary is there, and it's a prayer offered for her. So still, we keep praying and saying. But yesterday, when the church was quiet, I did the full readings, not shortening it just because no one comes and let's go through. And it's so interesting that when those readings, the first reading of the prophet is read, or the Acts of the Apostles, which happened yesterday, and the Gospel, these are words, sacred words, which, like a photograph of the age, they captured into these letters all the needs, desires, hopes and pains of the people. And when you read it in length, you really feel that that prophet is present, that consolation is present, that warning is really serious. So actually what I sensed, and it was a great reminder, that our church is full of sacred history. And when we want to keep our churches open physically, it's not enough to keep the churches open physically, that any time from 7 till 8 someone can come in and pray. But we have to keep sacred history open, and the only way is doing our readings, reading the Bible, saying the morning prayer, saying the evening prayer, offering the Holy Mass on a daily basis. And if someone comes in, like we are joining in a story. We are joining the presence of the saints, and we are becoming part of that sacred history. And it would be such a loss if communities would give up the daily prayer, if their priest, just because no one comes in the morning prayer, I can say that prayer in the house when I wake up, or when whatever time. So we have to keep our churches alive, a bit like the candles which are lit. It's full of light, it's full of potential for invitation for prayer. So this didn't want to be an appeal that please do come on Thursdays and Tuesdays, because for example tomorrow I can't be here for the evening, but in general it would be a great support. But the very fact to think about how can we talk about God as a community and as individuals. that when people come, they see that God is a topic, not because it's in the lectionary, but because we let God be God among us. And this is our power as Christians, that we talk about afterlife. We talk about the forgiveness of sins, what a good feeling it is to unburden our hearts in the sacrament of confession, or asking sorry for someone when we had a quarrel with someone, or when we gave a good advice, or when we enjoyed the shared meal together. But let us offer it as a thanksgiving to God, and in this Holy Communion, let us ask God to speak through us. Because, and let me quote again that very simple sentence, the most interesting thing about religion